Welcome back to Crime All the Time. Today's episode is about the life and death of famous comedian and actor Phil Hartman. Born Philip Hartman on September 24, 1948, in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. He was fourth of 8 children born to Rupert and Doris Hartman. When Phil was just 10 years old, his family moved from Canada to the East Coast, briefly living in Maine and Connecticut, and eventually settling down in California. Phil will graduate from the Westchester High School, then further his education at California State University, Northridge, receiving his graphic design degree. Phil will eventually open his own graphic design business. It will become very successful, creating 40 album covers for various bands, including the band Crosby, Stills, and MASH. Hartman wanted to become a comedian and joined the comedy improv and sketch group The Groundlings in 1975, where Phil will meet fellow comedian Paul Reubens. They together will create the comedy show Pee-wee's Herman Playhouse. Phil will also co-write the film Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985. Phil will marry his second wife, real estate agent Lisa Strain, in 1982. Their marriage quickly started going downhill and was ultimately headed for divorce, due to Phil being unemotional towards her and will just check out during arguments. They will eventually divorce in 1985, but will remain friends over the years. In 1986, Phil was cast in the iconic comedy sketch Saturday Night Live. He played in over 153 episodes, setting a record for the show. He also was a voice actor to multiple characters on The Simpsons. Also in 1986, Phil's friend will set him up on a blind date with Bryn, a Catalina swimsuit model. Phil and Bryn will marry a year later on November 25, 1987. They would welcome their first child, a son, Sean Edward Hartman, on June 17, 1988. Lisa, Phil's second wife, wrote the Hartmans a card congratulating the couple on the birth of their son. Bryn will write her back a 2-page letter stating she will hurt and rip her eyes out if she ever spoke to Phil again. Lisa will call Phil and ask him about the letter. He responded saying, "You should have seen the other letter she wanted to send you." Lisa and Phil will not speak or see each other for years after that. Bryn was very jealous and overprotective of Phil and often verbal and physically abusive. Bryn Omdahl, born Vicky Jo Omdahl on April 11, 1958 in Thief River Falls, Minnesota, daughter of Donald Jean and Constance Faye Omdahl. She will drop out of high school and marry Douglas Torfin on May 20, 1977. Wanting more out of life, Bryn divorced Torfin and became a local model. She will move to Hollywood, California, to become an actor. She changed her name a few times from Brendan and then to Bryn. To some people, her and Phil's marriage was pretty good. In 1992, while Phil was taping an episode of Saturday Night Live, when the couple welcomed their second child, a daughter, Anika Hartman. Her birth was announced at the end of the show, but to others, their marriage was very rocky. Bryn had anger issues and abused drugs, like cocaine and alcohol. She will go to several trips to rehab centers, but they were not successful. Phil will tell friends that he will go into his cave and she throws grenades to get me out. During arguments, Phil would pretend to go to sleep to avoid his wife's abuse and manic behavior. Then he will wake up in the morning and everything will be okay. As their marriage became worse and his career was really taking off, Phil will start spending more time away from home and buying lots of new toys, including a boat so he can sail off to his favorite spot, Emerald Bay, Santa Catalina Island. Bryn will become jealous of Phil's career and fame because she wanted to be an actor, but was not able to get any roles. Phil tried to hype his wife up in the media and get her roles, but nothing really happened for Bryn. On May 27, 1998, Bryn will go out for drinks with her friend Christine Zander at the Buca di Beppo bar. Christine said Bryn was in good spirits. After leaving the bar, Bryn went over to her ex Ron Douglas' house around 10:15 p.m. While there, she was complaining about her husband and her marriage. Bryn left his house around 12:45 a.m., heading home. Once home, Phil and Bryn got into a heated argument. Phil accused her of hitting their daughter Jen while she was under the influence. He then told her if she was using drugs again, he will divorce her. Phil then laid down in bed and went to sleep like usual, to avoid any more confrontation. Bryn will then get angrier, and everything came to a head. While Phil was asleep, she shot Phil 3 times while he was asleep. Once between the eyes, once in the throat, and once in the upper chest with a .38 caliber handgun. One of many guns the couple kept in the house. 9-year-old Sean and 6-year-old Burjen were asleep upstairs. Later, Sean will say he thought it was a door slamming. After the shooting, Bryn will call Douglas, telling him Phil was not at home and he left a note saying, "I'm going out for the night. I'll be back, Phil, love you." She told Douglas she did not want to be alone, but didn't want to leave the children by themselves. Douglas told her to take aspirin and go to sleep. She didn't listen, because 25 minutes later, she was banging on his door around 3:25 a.m. When Douglas let her in, she immediately told him that she killed her husband. At first, he did not believe that she killed Phil. Then the .38 caliber gun fell out of her purse. But when he looked at the gun, it did not appear to have any bullets missing. He and Bryn left for her house in 2 separated cars. Douglas still had the gun. When he looked at it again, he noticed that 2 bullets had been fired. They arrived at the house. Bryn showed Douglas where Phil's body was in the master bedroom. Douglas saw Phil's body lying in a pool of blood. He immediately called 911 at 6:20 a.m. While grabbing Sean out of his bed and taking him outside, Douglas noticed Bryn had locked herself in the master bedroom. She called her sister on the phone and told her what happened. The police arrived. Some tried to get Bryn to come out the room, while other police officers grabbed the daughter out of her bed to take her outside to safety. As the police officer were taking Burjen to safety, they heard a single gunshot come from the master bedroom. Police broke down the door and found the 2 Hartmans laying in the bed. Bryn had hung up the phone from her sister, laid down next to her husband Phil, and shot herself in the head through her mouth. The children were sent to be raised by Bryn's sister Catherine and her husband per the Hartmans' will. They were left behind estate that they will receive after they turn 25 and as long as they completed college. The children grew up very well. Burjen graduated from the University of St. Thomas with a degree in communication and journalism. Sean works as a visual artist and musician. In 1999, Bryn's brother Gregory Omdahl filed a wrongful death suit against both Pfizer and the psychiatrist who prescribed Zoloft. Pfizer later settled the lawsuit without an admission of wrongdoing. The Hartmans' bodies were later cremated. Some of Phil's ashes were buried next to his wife, and some were scattered by friends over Emerald Bay, Santa Catalina Island. On September 22, 2012, Phil was inducted to the Walk of Fame Canada. And on August 26, 2014, Phil's star was unveiled on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Phil Hartman's memory lives on in his amazing work he did throughout his career.